Welcome to the Friday Shoot-Around, your K-State basketball show. Presented by Booth Creek Wagyu. Now let's go to the Flint Hills, home of GPC's hidden studio. Here's your host, Ryan Gilbert.
This is the Friday Shoot-Around. I am Ryan Gilbert. He is former Kansas State guard Clint Stewart. K-State coming off of 2 games in Kansas City. 1 win that was pretty impressive for a Drum Tang squad, but against Iowa State, Clint, I think K-State sort of just ran out of gas, didn't it?
Yeah, I think we definitely did, and you saw that with a lot of the teams that won on that second day. Then going up against the top 4 seeds, they obviously had a lot more energy coming out from the very beginning, and then I think we saw that in all 4 games. Unfortunately, that affected our game as well.
Real quick here before we start to break things down. Of course, we're gonna take a look at the resume. Drum Tang is very optimistic. We'll see how myself and Clint feel about that. But real quick here, a quick message from our sponsor, Booth Creek Wagyu.
From the tailgate to the back deck, remember to elevate your grilling this season with our friends from Booth Creek Wagyu. Their ranch is located just north of Manhattan and proudly raises authentic Wagyu beef from farm to table. Visit their retail locations in Manhattan and Overland Park or online at boothcreekwagyu.com.
Okay, Clint, do you think K-State did enough with that 1 win over Texas to get them over the hump and into that field of 68 on Selection Sunday?
I'd like to say yes, but I definitely don't feel good about it. But I do think Coach Tang made some really good points in his post-game interview yesterday, and he talked about our 5 quad 1 wins and who those were against. Talked about the 3 losses, obviously Miami, USC, and Oklahoma State. And those being the only 3 losses to teams that aren't going to be in the NCAA tournament this year. And so I think we made a really good case, but just based upon kind of where we're at and where some other teams are at, more importantly, I think it's going to be hard, but keep my hopes up. I'm hoping on Sunday we get that call and we're in, and then we can obviously celebrate.
Yeah, I certainly hope Jerome Tang is right. I just fear that he's not, and I'm not going to argue with really anything that Jerome Tang said, right? You look at the wins that Kansas State does have, and even those losses to USC and Miami at the time, those were surefire locks to make the NCAA tournament, and then things sort of derailed for whatever reasons for those teams. And so there's some things that, quite honestly, I know, Clint, we've outlined this, that are just out of control for this team. You lose 2 starters. They don't even play a single game for you with Naquan Tomlin and Quez Glover. Obviously, I talked about those opponents not being as good as you once thought they would be. At the end of the day, though, Drum Tang mentioned that K-State did win their games, that, the North Alabama one where you go to overtime, or some of these close calls against the mid-majors that you should be blowing out. And Drum Tang's not necessarily wrong that, they did win those games, but the net ranking, the selection committee, it goes deeper than that, than just winning those games. They want to see blowouts against those poor non-conference opponents, not just an overtime win.
Yeah, well, and some of it, can be the eye test, and I think that's where some of those, things come in when it comes to the committee, and then obviously when you're watching us play, we've had some games where we played really well. We had some games where we didn't play well, and some of them we didn't play well into that last 5 minutes, right? And so, I think some of it can be the eye test as well, and unfortunately, if we kind of look at the eye test over a body of work, I can see why they might say, we don't know if they're deserving or not. But like I said, we did beat, KU, we did beat Baylor, we did beat Iowa State. Those are 3 top 10 wins. One that sticks out to me though, one that we lost to, and I kind of already mentioned it, was Miami. And I think why it sticks out to me is it hurts my heart seeing kind of why we lost that game. If we remember back, Nigel Pack went off on us in that game. Actually, he had 28, which is the most points he scored in his 2 years at Miami. Hadn't scored that much since he was at Kansas State. So, if that ends up to be in the game that hurts us, I think that one's going to hurt me a lot. So, unfortunately, that's the way it rolls. But like I said, it's body of work and it's eye test, and then we'll see if the eye test is enough for the committee.
Yeah, not to spend a whole bunch of time on that Miami game, but like we mentioned at the time, that was just, Miami was really, really good, and Kansas State had coming off a big win over Providence in the Bahamas. That was a lot of fun to cover. I look forward to being out in, I believe, the Virgin Islands is where Kansas State's going to be next fall for that tournament. But I mean, it's just, there were things out of their control, and you mentioned that one, the Miami game. That one, Nigel Pack, maybe I don't want to say he was playing for something greater in that game, but going up against his former team, maybe the sense of urgency just wasn't there. But it's just surprising when, the Hurricanes were coming off a Final Four last year, right? You just didn't expect this, resume to look the way that it does. But you look at the Big 12 body of work, Clint, you win 9 games, between 1 in Kansas City and then 8 in the regular season. That's Jerome Tang's probably, if you got him to he had a 3-minute answer. It was almost 4 minutes long after that game against Iowa State that, he stated his case. But if you got him to just say one reason, what's the number one reason that we should put you in the field of 68? I'm sure Jerome Tang would say winning 9 Big 12 games.
Yeah, I think so. And obviously we wish we would have had the 9 in the conference, regular season conference, and you get your 10th in the Big 12 tournament. I definitely had some opportunities to do that, but getting 9 in the Big 12 and how competitive it is, night in, night out, especially. Even trying to go win on the road and how hard it is to win on the road in the Big 12. I think, it's the best conference in America. We have a lot of teams that are worthy, and, it's unfortunate the way the field of 68 works is not always the best teams don't always get in, right? I mean, obviously, there's automatic bids. There's teams that win their conference tournament, and so that they obviously get in. And there's a lot of, as you can say, mid not Power 6 conferences that are going to have teams in there that you'd say, well, K-State's better than that team, but it's not the way it works. And so we're just hoping we're one of the 68, and then if we're in there, once you get in, anything can happen.
Let's switch gears here and talk about Kansas City. I guess we can also talk about the game with Iowa State back in Manhattan. We haven't had a show here, Clint, since that, but also the game against Texas here to open things up. Kansas State didn't play well in the first half of that game, Clint. Let's be honest here, but the story of that game, the MVP of that game in my eyes, was Day-Day Ames.
Yeah, Day-Day was phenomenal in that game. We were down 10 at halftime. We came out, and normally when you go in at halftime and you're down 10 or even 8 or more, I think the message you go into halftime is telling the players that the first 4 minutes are really important, and those first 4 minutes can determine whether or not we're going to have an opportunity of getting back in the game or whether the other team's going to stretch the lead. And I think what we saw, we came out and we dominated early on in the second half, which allowed us to get back into the game. And then it was like, all right, now we're here. It's ball game. We can do this. But Day-Day, I mean, he just made plays, driving the basketball, making shots. He was just phenomenal, aggressive. I thought he was smart. I thought it was his best game, overall body of work, for the entire season. And there was a time where we needed him to play really well. So it was great to see him, get extended minutes, especially in the second half, because I don't believe he played as much in the first. But he got extended minutes in that second half, and he did what he needed to do, which was nice to see.
With beating Iowa State on Saturday, did that kind of hurt Kansas State just with the Cyclones coming out with a much higher sense of urgency? Obviously, Iowa State was well rested. K-State was playing on a back-to-back, but kind of felt like a payback game where Iowa State, especially in the second half, just kind of put it on K-State.
Yeah, well, and anytime you you go into the week, and obviously for Kansas State, we had to play Texas the night before, and so all the preparation, right? And we talk about one game at a time, you have to prepare for Texas. And so you have a week or several days to prepare for Texas. And then you win that game, and it's a late game, right? I mean, at 6 o'clock, we ended at 8:15. And so that night, you go in and you have film work and you start talking about, what we're going to do against Iowa State. And you saw some adjustments we did as far as playing, I call an I-3, where we kind of guarded 3 guys. We had 2 guys in zone. To try to throw them off a little bit, but you don't have a lot of time to really prepare. You say, well, you should know the opponent. Yeah, you know the opponent, but game to game, I mean, things kind of change, right? And you might want to guard guys differently, and even just the mental set of it of like, all right, this is the guy I got to guard. I'm going to watch extra film on him. I have several days to really get ready for him versus I just have the next day to prepare for it, where Iowa State had a few weeks to prepare for, a week or so to prepare for K-State. And I think, they kind of took advantage of that. So it's unfortunate, but I thought we were right there. We cut it to 1 in the second half. And, but then, like you said, we ran out of gas.
They ran out of gas. Absolutely. I'm not going to disagree with you there, but K-State also 20 turnovers in the game. A lot of those came, I think it was 12 in the second half. That was the story of the game, but also, Clint, that's just kind of been the story of the entire season for the Wildcats.
It has been, and it really hasn't changed. You'd like to see it change at some point. When we beat Iowa State at home, I believe it was like 14 to 15, turnovers. Like we had 14, or maybe we had 15, they had 14, or something like that. And so when you look at our game against them on Thursday, when you have 20 turnovers, and the thing that that's hard is a lot of our turnovers, like we say, are just lackadaisical, just not aggressive, and kind of just driven the ball out of bounds, slipping and falling on the ground. But not only that, but then you look at it and you say, well, how many turnovers did we force? I think that's kind of been the biggest thing for me. We haven't forced a lot of turnovers, and so when you look at the possession game, that forcing turnovers, obviously offensive rebounds, those give you extra possessions. And we just didn't get enough of them, and so when we have 14 more turnovers than Iowa State. I mean, it's going to be hard to win.
Let's switch gears here, Clint. We're all over the place today with Nae'Qwan Tomlin and Ques Glover. I wanted to touch on them. Let's go back to the resume a little bit here. Jerome Tang mentioned that they were playing without two of their would-be starters going into the year. Obviously, if you lose those if those players never existed, right, you would have the starting five heading into the year. It would have been what it would have been. But when you lose those guys unexpectedly, you don't anticipate not playing without them. I think that's kind of where K-State, and this isn't necessarily a fault to Jerome Tang and his staff or this team, but they tried to learn how to adjust playing without them for maybe the first month of the season. In their eyes, kind of paraphrasing some stuff that Jerome Tang said, that they want to be clicking once conference play starts early on. Let's figure some stuff out. Let's get better. Let's tweak these things we can adjust. And I think that ultimately, Clint, that's kind of coming back to bite this team with the poor non-conference resume and that strength of schedule, all that stuff, just the non-conference. You win 9 games in the Big 12, that should be enough. But the non-conference, it kind of stems, the poor non-conference really stems from losing those two players.
Well, and if you think about, Ques Glover is kind of the unknown, right? We kind of expected him to come in, and obviously we expect all the guys to come in and play well, but it's still kind of the unknown, right? Because we haven't seen him in the Big 12 atmosphere yet or environment. But Tomlin, we have seen, and we know what he can do. We know he's an all Big 12 type performer. Was going to be one of our leaders this year on the floor, scoring the basketball, rebounding the basketball, making things happen. He's a matchup nightmare. I think he's so long and athletic. So what he can bring. And when you lose, a player of his caliber, and obviously our best returning player that we have had coming back, it's a blow to the team, and it makes it hard to kind of fill that gap. I mean, you can't fill that gap with one player, right? So multiple guys have to try to step up. And, that's where you give hats off to Coach Tang and the staff. Most teams that lose their best player coming back from the season before, plus another player that you'd say, coming in has the potential to start or obviously play big minutes and can score the basketball. It's tough to fill. I mean, you can see what happened to, no straight comparison here, but you can see what happened to KU without Hunter Dickinson and McCollier against Cincinnati, right? So, it's tough. And but I thought, they did a good job of just trying to fill that as best as they could and then still have the season that we had.
Kaluma, Perry, and Carter, those guys gave it their all this season. They were fine. They were good at times, great at times, but they would have been even better if that weight was lifted off of their shoulders with Tomlin and Glover on the team. But it is what it is. I know K-State's not looking for excuses here, but Clint, we'll take a quick break. We can dive more into the resume here in the second half, but first let's take a quick break, Clint.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
From the tailgate to the back deck, remember to elevate your grilling this season with our friends from Booth Creek Wagyu. Their ranch is located just north of Manhattan and proudly raises authentic Wagyu beef from farm to table. Visit their retail locations in Manhattan and Overland Park or online at boothcreekwagyu.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
I want to ask you, Clint, was this the first game you attended all year long for K-State in person?
In person, yes. Yep. The Texas and the Iowa State. Yep.
Okay. Was there maybe something that you saw? This could be anything: schematics, physicality, the aggression, anything. Was there anything that stuck out to you seeing this team play that maybe you don't see on TV when you're there in person?
Well, I think in person, seeing the turnovers in person, live, we said too many that I thought, just some of them were bad spacing, as you kind of can see that the spacing a little bit better, obviously live than you can on TV. But then, I mean, some of them were just, like I said, losing our footing and things, or dribbling the ball straight out of bounds. So those were obviously, just kind of disheartening as you kind of see that happening. But, still, the overall, I thought, I thought our team, they played hard, and that was a good thing. And you can see that on TV, or whether you're live or not, but we played hard. You can see, the guys sticking together, the guys continue to try to fight, continue to try to do what they, had to do to try to go win. And so all those are obviously good things. But, it was nice, though, for me to be there and obviously be able to see him in person. I haven't had a lot of time this year to be able to do that. So it's nice to be able to cheer on the team and support the team, obviously, in Kansas City.
You'll have some free time, though, moving forward to go out and support the Cats maybe a little bit more next year, right?
That's right.
For those who don't know, Clint Stewart, I don't think we addressed this here on the show, did we?
No, we didn't.
Clint Stewart is no longer the Bartlesville Bruins basketball coach.
That's right. Yep. So stepped down at the end of this season. It's been 10 years. And so had a good run, obviously really enjoyed my time and tremendous administration there in Bartlesville, and really glad, they gave me an opportunity 10 years ago when I was, I call it a young chap, 27 years old, and then get my first head coaching job, obviously in the high school level. And, they were really good to me. And so I enjoyed it. I have 3 kids, though, 11, 9, and 5. And, it's been a lot of time away from them over the last 10 years. And so I'm just looking forward to the next chapter.
Right on, man. We're happy for you and looking forward to what you have in store, Clint. But I mean, David Castillo, and that's another thing that Clint Stewart was able to produce. And I'm sure you'll be back up in Manhattan a lot to see him next year.
Oh yeah, no doubt, and he's so excited to get up there. And his season just wrapped up at Sunrise, and you guys, when we're got the Nike Hoop Summit, I believe, coming up early April, and then after that he'll be up there in Manhattan, our 1st of June for summer school, and obviously start preparing for next year. So he's ready, he's excited, and like I said, he's purple through and through.
Let's go back to the resume, Clint. I feel like that's kind of what people want to figure out. Is it just the non-conference that's maybe holding this team back, or is there something that the committee might be seeing that maybe I'm not, or other people are not seeing?
Well, I thought it was interesting when Tang,
there he is.
There we go. I'm back in there. All right, there we go. So Tank, he talked about a win being a win, and no matter how you get it, you just have to win. But when it comes to the net ratings, it's like we get docked for winning overtime games, or especially against teams that might not be in the Power 6 conferences or whatnot. And so that's kind of hard, and at any point in time, as I've always thought about it as well, as you just got to win. I know there's an eye test figure, eye test to it as well, and how well the team is playing, and I think that can be big. But and also, how do you play down the stretch? The committee likes to see, how are you playing kind of at the end of the season, because that can be telling to how you're going to be able to do in the tournament as well. And I thought we were, obviously better later here down the stretch than what we were kind of the previous few games before that. But when you win, you win. And so I'm hoping that the committee takes that into account, and no matter who it was against, we got the win, which is a lot better than getting the loss.
I want to pull up a quote for Jerome Tang after that game, after the loss to Iowa State. He said about the NIT, and I want to ask you about this. We're going to talk about what's going on, but right now I got this crazy faith inside of me, and I'm looking forward to Selection Sunday. So I think this team would go to the NIT. Is there anything there with that statement? He didn't say yes, he didn't say no. But do you think that they would participate if they don't get in?
Yeah, well, I think it would be important for us too, because of us having so many young guys as well, and guys that can continue to get that experience that's needed when you talk about Day and maybe RJ Jones and maybe Michaela Britch, maybe he gets a few more minutes there in the NIT, and so I think it can be very beneficial for our team. It's always hard for seniors because, you're obviously dead set on the NCAA tournament. So it can always be a little bit tougher for seniors, but at the same time, you don't want to, you don't want to go out with the, just the bad taste of not making the NCAA tournament and sitting there on Selection Sunday and not getting called. So I'd hope that the team would, consider it if obviously that ends up being the direction we have to go.
You looked at Baylor when Tang was there as an assistant, right? They went to the NIT, so I believe they would go. I'd be shocked if they didn't. And you mentioned it, just go out and give the young guys and even the older guys. Tyler Perry, he wants to go out with a bang, right? Even if that's not at the NCAA tournament level. I don't want to speak for them, but I think that they just want to play ball no matter where it's at.
Yeah, it's kind of like what is KD? KD says that I just want a ball, right? No, I don't care who it is or where it's at or what. I just want to play basketball, and so hopefully, guys, like I said, have that kind of mindset and want to finish, the right way. And there's no better thing to go do is if we don't get into the NCAA tournament, then go win the NIT, and tell them, NCAA, you were wrong, right? And so hopefully, like I said, if that ends up being the direction we have to go, then our guys will be committed to it and, be locked into trying to go win it.
What's Jerome Tang's message right now to his team? Maybe not necessarily right after that loss, but heading into Selection Sunday, is it guys kind of just sit back and wait, have that crazy faith like he mentioned?
Yeah, well, I know he's probably telling the team, hey, we're going to be in, right? Like, we're going to be in, like, believe it, speak it, and until we see something else, we're going to believe we're in, right? Versus coming into the Selection Sunday of, well, I don't know, guys, we'll have to see what they say, and so, he who speaks it and believes it, good things happen. So hopefully he's telling the team that, and then the guys all believe we're going to be in, and when we see our name up there on Selection Sunday, is say, told you, let's go.
Would a win over Iowa State on Thursday, would that have gotten K-State in, or do you think that K-State's still maybe on the outside looking in? Did they need 3, do you think, in Kansas City to actually really get in?
So I thought 2, possibly 3. We would have beat Iowa State, I think obviously it's a better case to be in, but I just felt good about where we were at because, I'll be honest, I thought if we would have beat Iowa State, I thought we had a chance to beat Baylor, and so, and just kind of based upon how we play and how the season's gone. And, and Tang has Coach Drew's number as well. So that's always nice, it seems. But, I thought if, we got by Texas, I thought we had a chance against Iowa State. And if we beat them, I thought we would have beat Baylor and been in the championship. And then there leaves no doubt then, and so now beating Houston, I think would have been a tough one. It's the way they play. And those guys, you talk about watching someone live and seeing how they get after it, defensively. It's tough to score on them. They started the game and put TCU down 16-0 to start the game. I said, I'm glad I'm not out there playing because I'd be like, Coach, man, sub me out, man. I can't even dribble the ball against these guys. But hopefully, like I said, that the one against Texas, hopefully is enough. I do think we would have got 2 probably, but if we would have got 2, I do believe we would have got 3.
TCU didn't score for like the first 10 minutes of that game. So as ugly as K-State was maybe against Iowa State, boy, it could have been a lot worse for the Wildcats.
That is true.
So Jerome Tang here, he's pleading his case, right? And I get it. He wants his team to get in. At the same time, though, K-State had a late lead at Texas Tech early on in Big 12 play. The loss to TCU at home was crushing on that last second shot from the Horned Frogs. You go out to Cincinnati, you have a chance to win that one late. They hit a shot to get over the hump. And so Jerome Tang, I get what he's saying, but also, K-State had those opportunities that were there. Obviously, you win the close games in overtime. That's great. That's awesome. But you had chances to win more close games. And ultimately, you can talk about all this and that. But at the end of the day, if K-State does not get in, I think that those close losses are going to be the ones that sting, obviously, maybe more than all the stuff we've talked about before.
Yeah, and I think that's why coaches talk about, it's a possession game, and the games you just mentioned, came down to a possession or two, and you didn't even talk about BYU and where we were at BYU and an opportunity to win, and then we had a breakdown kind of late at the end of the game, and it's a possession game, and each possession is so important, especially towards the end of the basketball game when it becomes crunch time, and then what we like to call winning time, and then how are you going to perform in winning time, and so. It's unfortunate because, if you look at some of those losses you just mentioned, you can say, man, that's, 5 or 6 possessions in the season that they could have turned, where we're currently at, and make us a team that's automatically in versus a team that's, relying on the selection committee to get us in. So it's a possession game. And unfortunately, there's several possessions that I know we wish we could have back.
Let's wrap it up with this, Clint. If K-State does get into the tournament, if they're in, whether that, they're probably going to be playing in Dayton if that does happen, but if K-State does get in, what do you think the ceiling would be for this team in March Madness?
Well, I think, one, we got to get some guys healthy, and obviously we saw Tyler Perry was, kind of limping a little bit throughout this weekend. And so we got to get some guys healthy, but, assuming that he gets back healthy and he's good to go, I think Tang and staff, when it comes to preparing for an opponent, I think they would be so well prepared, that first round game, and then obviously you get into that second round game and that's where you only have, a day or, to kind of turn it around. But, I would think we'd have a chance to get to the Sweet 16, and then as everyone says, once you get some confidence as well, and if we make some shots, get some stops defensively, you get to the Sweet 16, then it becomes even more important on that possession game. And then, like I said, anything can happen. But, we have guys that can make outside shots, which, when you have someone that can get hot like Tyler Perry, it always gives you a chance to win, and always gives you a chance to come out and do something special. So, like I said, hopefully we get in and we can have that opportunity to do something special.
K-State's expectations last year were higher as a 3 seed in the tournament. But if I'm Jerome Tang, I'm going to that committee and say, hey guys, look what we did last year. We can do this again. Just get us in, give us a chance. And even if that's playing in Dayton for the first game, first 4, give us a chance. So that's all I'd be saying if I was Jerome Tang.
That's it. All you want is a chance and that opportunity. So as long as there's time on the clock, take advantage of that time and kind of give everything we have towards it.
We'll see what happens, man. K-State right now is on the outside looking in. If you look at all the bracketology sites, it doesn't look good for Kansas State, but Jerome Tang put up his argument. You're going to be praying and hoping that all those bubble teams can lose. By the time you're watching this, maybe they have already lost some games or have won. But all you can do is have crazy faith, and like Clint said, treat it like you're going to be in, and then see where you go from there.
That's it. That's all you can do.
Clint, I don't know what we'll do next week. If we're talking NIT, if we're talking NCAA tournament, we're talking nothing. We'll have something coming your way here on the YouTube channel. Clint, as always, I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
This has been a GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.